Welcome back, guys, to the Great Ace Attorney Adventures, where last episode we heard testimony from Ashley Graydon about the music disc, as we pressed his assertions with Inspector Gregson seemingly wanting to keep quiet about anything regarding Magnus McGilded, with the disc of course being labelled for him. This proved unhelpful to us, placing Mr. Graydon at the shop that night, but fortunately we had a ticket that could lead to just that. With the box we had yet to account for having been his aim, we found a discrepancy using stereography, now leading us to reveal what we know of our first trial in London to prove a relation to this case, admitting our mistake, and possibly incriminating Gina by getting her to testify, as the truth now comes out. Allow me to recap the events of 2 months ago. An old brickmaker was stabbed to death in an omnibus running along London's winter streets. Apart from the victim, there was only one other person in the carriage, Mr. McGilded. Naturally, he was the prime suspect for the murder. But as the trial progressed, another possibility emerged. That the murder in fact took place above the defendant's head on the roof deck, with the body then being dropped through the skylight into the carriage below. It was Mr. Lestrade whose testimony brought that possibility to light. At the time of the incident, Mr. Lestrade was concealed under a seat in the carriage, hoping to pick the pockets of unsuspecting passengers. Then, immediately after the trial, having been acquitted of the murder, Mr. McGilded died in this very courtroom, in the most extraordinary of circumstances. A mystery that remains unsolved even now, 2 months on, as indeed does the omnibus murder itself.
Be that as it may, I recall neither the disc nor this small box being mentioned in the course of those proceedings.
Mr. Lestrade, would you tell the court now, please, what really happened in the omnibus 2 months ago? I don't know what you mean. I already said all of what I know. And what about everything you told us yesterday from inside your prison cell? Please, Mr. Lestrade, this is extremely important. But remember, little girl, if it transpires that you willfully withheld information in the trial 2 months ago, the Home Office will seek to prosecute you for perjury. And naturally, you will lose all credibility as a witness. Although, let's face facts, you have little credibility to lose. Ginny, don't listen to him! Please, you have to trust Runo now. Iris? We're on your side. Alright then. I'll talk. It's the right choice, Gina. Well, it would seem that my learned friend is hell-bent on bringing the entire courtroom down about his ears. So be it.
I must confess that I'm struggling to understand what on earth is happening here. However, it would appear that Mr. McGilded's pawned articles in that extraordinary case of the omnibus harbor secrets of which we have been hitherto unaware. So, Mr. Lestrade, you will now give your testimony before the court about the events of 2 months ago. You will reveal the truth, a commodity sorely lacking in your original statements.
This is it then. Everything's gonna come out. Like Van Ziek said. This could bring the whole courtroom down about my ears, but as a lawyer I'm prepared to take that risk. The real truth of the omnibus case. Truth is, that brickmaker cove was in the cabin of the omnibus the whole time. When the Irishman dragged me out from under the seat, I saw that disc on the floor. All of a sudden, I heard a scream from over my head, and that pair on the roof deck went off to call the slops. That's when McGilded slipped the driver some tin to do a run to the pawn shop roundabout. He threatened me not to snitch, not to say nothing to no one about what I seen or heard.
Good grief, this is outrageous. What you've just told the court bears almost no resemblance to your testimony 2 months ago.
As you say, my lord.
And then there's every chance I may have adjudicated an error in McGilded's trial. It sounds very much to me as if the man deliberately deceived this court in an effort to cover up the most wicked of schemes.
Without doubt, your lordship is correct. A great injustice was done in this courtroom 2 months ago. The actions of the accused in that trial, of this witness, and of my learned friend are entirely inexcusable. I don't believe it! The whole trial was a farce. It was all lies. That McGilden fellow was rotten to the core, just like that pickpocket. Don't forget that lawyer from the east. They were all in on it together. You're wrong, the lawyer! Mr. Naruhodo, the lawyer there, he didn't know nothing about it.
Humbug!
I don't think so. Are we really expected to believe that?
He really stitched everyone up, didn't he? What an operation to get the man off scot-free!
Unforgivable. Stop. The lies have to stop. Stop. Yes, the defense made a terrible error of judgment. I intend to take full responsibility and suffer whatever consequences are deemed appropriate. However, it's imperative that the court allows the witness to elaborate on her testimony, because the true significance of McGilden's pawned articles must be brought to light. Also, I'd just like to point out that, he literally just did his job. And I don't think you can get punished for that. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Very well, my learned student friend. Given the depths of calamity you've just plunged yourself into, this may well be worth hearing.
Words fail me. This situation is utterly deplorable. Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes, my lord.
I will decide upon your fate following the conclusion of this trial.
Of course, my lord. Blimey, Mr. Naruhodo.
Now, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination.
The real truth of the omnibus case. Let's get to examining. Truth is, that brickmaker co was in the cabin of the omnibus the whole time. Oh, wait a second. No, wait. I was like, why can't I, go to the guy next door? Why has he turned his back entirely to her?
Hold it!
And you were hiding in the cabin at the time as well, weren't you, Mr. Stroud? Yes, we were. If I remember rightly, in the storage compartment underneath one of the seats. Oh, now we can. Yeah, that's right. It's pitch black under there, so you can't see nothing at all. Wait, what? Also, I can pursue. Could I normally pursue if I look at someone without an exclamation mark? I would love to test that. What the hell are they conspiring about?
Excuse me.
Is there something you'd like to share with the court, Inspector Gregson and Mr. Graydon? Inspector, Mr. Graydon.
What? Blimey, you trying to give me a heart attack?
You have been whispering to each other for quite some time now. Tell us, what is the discussion about?
Discussion? With this fella? Pull the other one, sunshine. You think I've got anything to talk about with a shady gent like this?
And I have nothing to say to this uncouth detective after he deprived me of that disc that was rightfully mine. They've clearly been talking the entire time I've been cross-examining Gina, which was one sentence when I was like, what the hell is going on here? It's as if they've been negotiating.
You will kindly refrain from talking amongst yourselves while the witness is giving testimony.
Yeah, sorry, my lord. What were those two talking about?
Mr. Stroud, continue your testimony, please.
Okay. It was very obvious something was up when they were just like, why is his back turned? But what the hell? So I never actually got to press this statement. So let's try again. I don't know if I actually need to now. I've probably got everything I need out of it, but still. Truth is that brickmaker co was in the cabin of the omnibus the whole time.
Hold it!
Let's try again, shall we? And you were hiding in the cabin at the time as well, weren't you, Miss Lestrade? If I remember rightly, in the storage compartment underneath one of the seats. Yeah, that's right. It's pitch black under there, so you can't see nothing at all. Okay, they're behaving now. Okay, you can pursue no matter what. Okay, I didn't know you could pursue any other time. So that would mean that I just took an incredible gamble. Whoops.
Now, in your testimony 2 months ago, I feel certain that you claimed Mr. McGilded was the sole passenger, did you not?
False testimony, my lord. That's what he told me I had to say. But it's important that you tell us the truth now. Were Mr. McGilded and the victim acquaintances? I don't know. But I did hear him talking a lot. What were they talking about? Well, I couldn't hear too well, but if I had to say, I think it was about money or something. They kept talking about buying and not buying.
Perhaps business dealings of some kind.
Well, anyway, they got louder and louder. It started to sound like a proper fight. Well, I was pretty scared by then. I hardly dared to breathe, and then, all of a sudden, I heard a noise like someone keeling over on the floor. It was booming loud and all.
And I believe you let out an involuntary scream.
Yeah, that's what gave me away. When the Irishman dragged me out from under the seat, I saw that disc on the floor.
Hold it!
Was the disc you saw this disc? Yeah, I reckon it probably was. It was right next to the cove line on the floor.
Could this disc have belonged to the victim, perhaps?
I don't know, but McGilded picked it up pretty smartish. And then he sat the cove with a knife in his belly up on the seat.
Sure.
What did he say to you at the time? He told me not to say a word about what I'd seen or heard to no one. About the disc and all. I was dead scared. The way he was looking at me, I thought, if I didn't go along with it, I'd get stuck with that knife too. Then he started asking me a load of questions. Like what my name was and where I lived and that. He asked me about being a diver too. And after a while, what had happened in the carriage was noticed. Yeah, that's right. First there was a kind of rapping noise. All of a sudden, I heard a scream from over my head, and that pair on the roof deck went off to call the slops.
Hold it!
There were 2 gentlemen occupying the seats on the roof deck, I believe. That's right. They must have looked down through the skylight and noticed the cove with a knife in his guts. When they screamed, the driver pulled up the horses and McGilded got me out of sight.
Out of sight? Where?
Back under the seat where I started off. Once the carriage came to an halt, 2 coves on the roof ran off to fetch the slops.
If they immediately left to fetch the police, it would appear they were entirely unrelated to the incident.
So that left McGilded, the driver, and you still at the scene. Yeah, only the driver didn't know that I was there because I was under the seat. I heard the cabin door open and a voice from outside.
The driver? Yes, he also testified in the trial, I believe. A fellow who went by the name of Beppo, if memory serves.
What did McGilded and the driver say to each other? I don't know what happened, and stuff like that mainly. That's when McGilded slipped the driver some tin to do a run to the pawn shop about roundabout. That pawn shop obviously being Winterbanks on Baker Street.
Just a moment, counsel. Do you mean to tell me that the driver gave false testimony in that trial as well?
Perhaps the excursion to the pawnbrokery slipped his mind when he was in the stand.
Indeed, Lord Manzeeks.
McGilded took off his coat and gave it to the driver. He folded it up, all careful-like, before handing it over. When I saw him do that, I remember thinking, that coat and what's in it, it's got to be worth a few bob. Yes, Gina was sure the disc must be worth more than Mr. Winterbank was suggesting, wasn't she? I remember her quibbling with him over the price that afternoon at the pawnbrokery. The driver looked pretty happy when McGilded flashed some brass in his face. He went running off at a lick. When then the bog trucker called to me and told me to come out from the drag's cabin. Should I be checking these two every statement at this point in time in case they actually do converse? He threatened me to not snitch, not say nothing to no one about what I've seen or heard.
Hold it!
Threatened you how exactly? Told me I'd only be able to scarp her if I did exactly what he said. Which included giving false testimony in court 2 months ago. Yeah, that's it. And there was one other thing he said. Which was... He told me I'd have to hang on to the ticket from the pawn shop and make sure not to lose it.
The ticket? Well, I never.
Said that if he didn't show up to get the ticket off me before 2 months passed, I had to go to the pawn shop, pay the money to keep it in lug, to stop it from being forfeited.
Just wondering if these guys are up to anything.
He left me with some brass to pay for it.
But really? Why on earth would Miss McGildet have done such a thing? Depositing his overcoat with a pawnbroker before the arrival of the police. It makes no sense at all.
There would seem to be only one logical explanation, my lord. What McGildet had the driver deposit at Winterbanks was something he didn't want the police to see. Something very important that he needed to hide at all costs. Anyway, after that, he let me go. So I legged it before the coppers showed up.
Oh. Thank you, Mr. Strad. Thank you, counsel. I've heard enough. I believe we now have a reasonable understanding of what actually transpired on the omnibus.
It would appear on that night 2 months ago, a negotiation was taking place on the omnibus. A negotiation concerning this disc. However, matters did not run smoothly. When the parties involved began to quarrel over price, McGildet took what he wanted by force, at the expense of the other man's life. Which proves my point. The disc is clearly extremely valuable in some way. Although I don't understand why as yet. And 2 days ago, precisely 2 months after the omnibus incident, McGildet's coat and its contents were due to be forfeited. I didn't know what I should do with the ticket. I mean, the coat died right after his trial. I knew that. So you decided you would try to claim the articles as your own. Well, why not, eh? They were only going to be forfeited. Why shouldn't I have got them? Anyway, you can't blame me for thinking about it. Thinking ain't no crime.
Mr. Strad, it would appear Mr. McGildet was prepared to kill in order to take possession of this disc. Do you know why that would be?
I ain't got a clue. But I reckon it must be worth a fair bit of brass. He was probably going to sell it. And you can't blame me for thinking that. Thinking ain't no crime.
My lord!
The evidence your lordship requested has been located and is ready for the court's inspection, sir.
I forgot about the box was coming.
The mysterious little box deposited by McGildet 2 months ago. There's no doubt in my mind that it's a key piece in this far-reaching puzzle. To be continued, you say?
Well, it's too early for us to knock off into another episode at this point in time.
So, we will not save, and we will move forward, as the box is here. I thought you said it was the final bit.
Obviously not. So this is the article in question, is it? A small box deposited with a pawnbroker by Mr. McGildet 2 months ago.
And on the night of Mr. Winterbank's murder, the only item on the shelves that was touched by whoever broke into the shop. Quick, let's open it and see what's inside.
Good gracious! This is no ordinary box, it seems.
Wow. Although in truth, I had an inkling that might be the case. It would appear that the box houses a miniature music box movement.
And then, is it too much to expect?
I think it would be reasonable to assume that it is a device for the playback of this disc, my lord.
So, here we have the means to play back Mr. McGildet's disc deposited at Winterbanks at much the same time.
Not strictly correct, my lord. It was not McGildet's disc. It was the disc of his victim in the omnibus.
But why, for heaven's sake? Are we to understand that the brickmaker was trying to sell this music box disc to Mrs. McGilded?
I believe the answer will become clear if we listen to the music on the disc, my lord.
Yes, very well. Let the court now listen to this curious disc at last.
Hold it!
Wait, my lord! Good grief, what is the meaning of this, Inspector?
Music box and the disc are, well, they're unrelated to the case. No need to spoil the somber atmosphere in the courtroom with some silly bit of music.
Objection!
This disc may very well have motivated the culprit in this case to commit murder. Clearly, there's every chance that it's fundamentally important to understanding what happens. The prosecution has no objection. But no! A piece of evidence is police property now. You can't... Clearly, Scotland Yard has some vested interest here. But it is policy of this prosecutor to leave no avenues unexplored. And you, Inspector, have no jurisdiction here to prevent that from happening.
Ah! No further delays, please. Play the disc.
Oh. Apart from the snazzy beat we've got going. That is not a music disc.
What on earth? That's certainly not what I would call music.
No. It's just the same note playing over and over again in an irregular sequence.
Mr. Graydon?
This really is priceless. After all that, the music box is broken. Broken? It can't be, can it? Well, obviously. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the officer sent to fetch it didn't drop it on the way back to the courtroom.
Well, with much regret, I feel the court must accept that this music box offers little in the way of clues. Are you ready to move on, counsel?
Come on! Yes, alright. It does sound as though it's completely broken, but is it? Could this music emanating from the music box possibly be a new clue? Love how the game puts the things around the music to go, hey, the music! It's definitely a clue. I believe that it could be relevant, my lord.
Good lord, but how can it be? It's an abomination, counsel, mere noise. I fail to see how it could have any meaning whatsoever.
It does sound strange, I agree. There's one thing bothering me. While Graydon stands there chortling victoriously, the inspector beside him has a rather telling expression on his face. It's as if Gregson recognizes the sound, as if he's familiar with it somehow. And that's making him appear extremely on edge. If that's the stance of the defense, my Nibonese friend, answer me this. Oh. Wow. You're so leading. Just what relevance do you propose this woeful chiming has on this case? It's the defense's belief that the sound emanating from this music box is an unusual genre of music. It's a pop-punk fusion. Not supposed to be music. Just because this is a music box, it doesn't necessarily mean the sounds we're hearing are music. Look at that. The smile vanished from Graydon's lips as soon as I said it. I'm on the right lines here. I must be. Haha, making deductions based on how people react to what you say. You're acting just like Hurley, Runo.
Objection!
The sounds we're hearing aren't necessarily music. Well, now that you've told us what they are not, I'm sure the court would like to hear what they are. Do enlighten us, my Nibonese friend. Well, juror number 5. Surely you have an idea in mind, because if not, it will be the death of your ill-formed argument, and ill-informed, I guess. Exactly. The music box is clearly broken. Refusing to accept that fact is pure foolishness. They've got me. I don't know what the answer is, yet. Bruno, I've just examined the music box very thoroughly. And I'm fairly certain that it's not broken at all. Really? Really? The way it's been made, it can only produce a single note anyway. Thank you, Iris. Alright, well if the music box isn't broken, it must mean that the sounds it's producing have some significance that isn't musical. Ah! Could it be... Is that what these sounds are? Something's just struck me, Bruno. I feel like recently, in the past few hours even, I've heard another sound very much like the one this music box makes. Yes, it's a familiar sound. Actually, Iris, I was just thinking exactly the same thing.
I'm going to have to press a defense for an answer. If your assertion is that the sound produced by this music box is not in fact music at all, then what the devil is it, counsel?
All the evidence we've seen so far, all the testimony we've heard, it's all pointed to one single answer now. The prosecution demands that my learned Nibonese friend presents proof now. Tangible proof of this latest wild speculation. Alright then. This could be the best chance I'm gonna get to fight back in this trial. And if I'm right, it's gonna join all the dots together. And the dashes? The evidence that explains the true nature of the sounds on this music box disc is... Wait, I've got evidence to do that? Oh. Can't we just choose for a multiple choice thing where the answer is really obviously there? Okay. That's not it. There's nothing on it apart from what we got. That's where we got the box, but the box didn't identify what it is. Gina's representation papers are useless to us as well. Blood sample, useless. Pawnbroker's ticket about the coat, useless. Iris' story manuscript. Though we still haven't, like, actually used it yet, I guess. There's not really anything on it. We can see, like, writing and text, so that seems good. McGilda's case notes, we haven't really looked too much into that, I guess. Conviction was assured with 3 eyewitness testimonies. However, a surprise 4th witness's testimony resulted in acquittal due to insufficient evidence. So I do wonder when this will prove useful, or is this really just to jog my memory? Mason Milverton. Today's paper features prominently this case. Wait, did we actually read this at all? One broker perishes in pick plus plunder. How awful. For Guinea, I mean. Tomorrow's headline will be Discharged Divers Dauntless Duca, right? Yes, something like that. If possible, I'd like to go even bigger. Bigger? How? How pickpocket protects planet post-trial, perhaps? Protects planet? Oh, I can't wait for tomorrow now. It's going to be so great. Pawnbroker perishes in pick purse plunder. Alliteration is good. The London News, eh? What's this article then? There's a sensational story lower down the front page as well. Look. Ministry Mole. Classified secrets may have been leaked overseas from Ministry of Justice. For a 10-year-old, Iris certainly has a finger on the pulse of world news. It's about secret communications between Great Britain and its allies. Apparently they're being intercepted by hostile nations. Communications are being intercepted, but how would somebody be doing that? That's the question, isn't it? I've come up with 3 different possible methods so far. Are you looking for a new career, Bruno? No, of course not. I wonder, perhaps this is what Lord Strongheart was talking about yesterday. Yes, it could be. And it could explain why is Gregsy running from pillar to post at the moment. Oh. Well. I guess that which we have not read is the evidence that one might possibly need. This morning's paper, which contains an article about government secrets being leaked to foreign agencies. Now, how could it do that? Via, in a telegram? But, of course, that would be probably, maybe, possibly intercepted. But what about you, like, put the coded message on disk form, I have a special music box that plays it, and voila! Bob might be your uncle, or his name might be Jeff. But today's paper has what we need. When did we even actually get that again? I didn't even check it out because we were just going into the courtroom, weren't we? It was just kind of like, yeah, rush, and in we go. So, with today's paper being the answer to the evidence that we need, we will present it next time on Great Ace Attorney Adventures, as it looks like we've dipped into the world of espionage a little bit here. I'll see you next time for more. Bye-bye.